Hi guys, good afternoon. Thank you very much for tuning in. So today I am assembling a video and it's about my radio scanner and my quarter wave antenna. Outside I have a quarter wave antenna set up and mounted on an old satellite bracket on the chimney, and this antenna is most effective at picking up ham radio in about the 144 megahertz range. And I have this antenna hooked up with, I think it's RG6 cabling. It's the same cabling that was used on the old satellite dish. I just replaced it with my antenna, and this is hooked up to my radio scanner in the basement. And I went ahead through all of the different bands available on my scanner, and I've assembled a video on what I can still receive and listen into on my scanner. Now the scanner I'm using is a Uniden BCT8. It is not, I repeat, it is not a scanner with digital or DMR capability, meaning that I can't pick up digital signals. I can only pick up analog transmissions. Now, I'd like to investigate the discriminator mod, which is a way to tap in to the signals that the scanner receives with a small soldering job. But that's a whole different discussion, and I won't go into that. I've been looking into it. So this video might answer the question you have as to what is still available for listening on a radio scanner. No promises that this video will be exciting, but hopefully by the end of it I will try and summarize what is available for listening, at least if you live in the Lake Ontario Golden Horseshoe area. Okay, here goes. Oh, and one more thing, this is a headphone warning, so if you are listening to this video with headphones, I recommend you turn the volume down. In fact, it may not even be a good idea to watch this video with headphones, because occasionally the radio static will cut in and it's quite loud. Okay, so I've made notes for each of the different frequencies that I managed to hear. 164.4 is the weather. You'll hear this in both English and French, and it's really talking about the geography of southern Ontario and the different weather forecasts.
Friday, April 26th, for today, tonight, and Saturday. For western Lake Ontario, wind southeast 15 knots, becoming variable 15 near noon, then increasing to west 20 this afternoon. Wind veering to northwest 25 near midnight, then backing to west 20 near noon Saturday. Waves 1/2 meter or less, building to 1 early this morning and to 1 1/2 meter Saturday morning. Waves decreasing to 1 Saturday evening. Current marine report. Weather conditions at 11 a.m. Toronto City Centre Airport, temperature 11, wind east. Burlington 6, wind Hamilton 10, wind St. Catharines 15, Port Weller 5, Cobourg 8, wind.
Next, 410.375. This is the Hamilton Wentworth Detention Center, the control. So this is pretty much jail, like where they're holding people, awaiting trial or...
Anybody else waiting there?
Yeah, there's one more.
.147.1. This seems like a school bus dispatch. It was during the day, so maybe it's for like a field trip. I'm not really sure. But Guy Brown is actually a school in Waterdown.
The second group before I bring the first group back.
are you waiting there for that first group, or are you going back to Guy Brown now?
I'm gonna go back to Guy Brown now and get them the first group or the second group, and then I'll bring the first group back afterwards.
And 4.
127.0, and then a few following conversations that I heard. This is all aircraft traffic, but in particular 131.9, it mentions the frequency. It mentions aircraft traffic for LaGuardia, which maybe is the destination, and that's a major airport in New York City. Just thought I'd mention.
Check remarks, sorry about that.
2920, IFR, approach, RNAV, runway 24. Landing and departing, runway 24. All runways, 70%, air and wet, 30%, standing, water up to 1/8 of an inch. Taken at 0915 Zulu. LOTAN, runway 24 in effect. Caution, bird activity on the airport. Inform ATC that you have information Alpha.
And system ship with off going on and off as well. Case firm, Delta 1911. Case firm, will continue to LaGuardia, Delta 1911. Thank you. Delta 1911 out. Dispatch, you copy? 3235 today, over 34.
Next is 145.27. This station and similar stations did not show up on radioreference.com, but I'm quite certain this is ambulance dispatch, or EMS, and it seems like it's a trunked system. So there's a lot of communication on slightly varying frequencies, and so that makes me think it's all trunked. Personally, I don't really see it as worthwhile to try to figure out how to program that into my scanner.
Lane Avenue North, also in the area of Parkdale. Going for 2-vehicle MBC, possibly 2 patients there, 1 male patient unconscious, another female patient complaining of back pain. You will have fire, UTM 598-4787, last 4 5018, code 4, ALS from Limeridge, and 2030 going ahead of you.
Hamilton 2001, we're clearing.
3, sir.
Six, 3x3.
445.8250. This is definitely a ham repeater. I don't know a lot about that, but this conversation that I picked up is mentioning Covington, and you can tell by the accents of the gentleman speaking that they're not Canadian. They sound like they're definitely American accents, and they mention Covington, and there's a few different Covingtons in the United States. There's a Covington in Virginia and Georgia, but I think it's probably mentioning Covington, Kentucky, which is about 800 kilometers away from Toronto. There's also some discussion in this particular conversation about the Echolink repeater. I've heard of that before. I know it's a repeater, but I don't know much more than that. But it does get mentioned, so I thought it was worth pointing out. This conversation falls within the 70 centimeter ham amateur band.
Wrong, but your static IP will always read the same at the end of the firewall router test, and it should always say within 3 seconds passed. If it doesn't, then there's where your connection problems come in. Because it's got to negotiate back into on 5200. 5198 is like whenever you told the one up there to connect down here. And I'll remind Mel to double check his on the firewall router test. If both of them's not passing the firewall router test, odds are you're not going to get a connect. You're going to get a timeout. Just as a repeater, the problem is I don't leave work before 7, so I can't. It's hard for me to be home by 8 o'clock. I've got an hour drive each way, so it's nice to. Now I was struggling with the hooking up 2 ASUS routers with OpenVPN, and boy, that's a struggle. I can get the VPN to work just fine.
62.72. This falls within the VHF High band, and looking at radio reference, there seems to be a lot of regional and municipal city worker type of communication. So it deals with like the snow service and just other city worker related communication. But in this particular frequency that I picked up, it seems more like a taxi service because it's mentioning a fold-up walker. So this is definitely not the city or the region. And because of the street names mentioned, I think it's like Kipling and Dundas. Pretty sure this is Etobicoke, which is pretty much just west of Toronto, which is still within the GTA, Greater Toronto Area. If you don't know what GTA means.
Channel Walker. They basically due for 1250. Dundas Street West. That's going to be permit number 1119 up in Kipling and Dundas. And frequency for Diane.
Roger.
Okay, Diane with a folding walker. So first up is Diane. Diane is going to number 165 North Queen Street, going to the Walmart there at the main door.
Roger.
Okay, and Lloyd is going to number 85, the East Mall.
Roger, thanks.
.59. This is another taxi service.
43.8 kilometers. Meter amount $126.50. First customer plus to adult, no fare. Second customer support pass number
162.4. I ended up picking up the weather station again, the government funded transmission, and you'll notice that it's in French. And if you didn't know, Canada has 2 official languages, English and French, so that's why a lot of government broadcasts tend to be in both languages, so that's why it's in French. But it does pertain to Southern Ontario.
Samedi, alternance de soleil et de nuages. 30% de probabilité d'averse de neige tôt le matin. Vent du nord-ouest de 40 km/h avec rafale à 70, maximum 7, l'indice ultraviolet de 7 ou élevé. Caledon, Newmarket, Georgina, région de York, nord. Oxbridge, Beaverton, région de Durham, nord. Pour aujourd'hui, averse. Vent du sud-est de 20 km/h devenant du nord-ouest à 40 avec rafale à 70 cet après-midi.
Next, 455.75. For reasons I don't know, there is a comedy radio station that is being broadcast, and it seems like that's what's always being broadcast on this particular frequency. I think it might even be an AM station, and for some reason it's getting broadcast on the 455 megahertz frequency as well. This is within the 450 to 470 UHF Standard band.
The next harvest time. Harvest time on your head. Now it's time to go get this little bastard that's running real carefully. You want to pick the scab off evenly and carefully around the perimeter of the scab so that it lifts off all in one piece. You don't have to make.
Okay, next is a transmission that I can't even identify. There's just somebody asking for the time of day. And it was a radio transmission, and he gets a response. So I think this is probably like a workplace transmission, maybe a maintenance guy at some factory somewhere close by. I could only guess. That was 914.075.
Thank you very much.
Next is 443.05. This is more ham radio, and this is possibly a repeater, but I do recognize some of the ham guys, and it sounds like local stuff. Actually, I think the guys talking are a little bit more closer to Lake Erie rather than Lake Ontario, and it's possibly a repeater just by the way the transmissions sound. I'm not a ham radio guy yet anyway, but I can tell that it's kind of like a repeater because it's very fast-paced and it's picking up transmissions from all over the place. It sounds like a repeater to me.
Let's throw it over to
27.38. This is an example of what CB radio sounds like when someone is transmitting on a single sideband CB radio. Not all CB radios that you buy have sideband capability. Usually the more expensive CB radios will have sideband, and for lack of explanation, if you have a sideband radio, you can actually transmit a further distance. So it really opens up the ability to communicate with people further away. But unfortunately, if you don't have single sideband on your CB radio, or in this case my radio scanner, it sounds garbled. If you look at a sideband radio, there's like a frequency dial that you can kind of dial in what you're hearing and tweak it as you're listening to try to correct the pitch or tone. Might not be explaining that right, but you can correct what you're hearing and kind of dial it in better. So that's why it's always garbled when you hear it on a radio scanner. It's unintelligible. Last, back to the 146.43 ham radio 2-meter ham band. And kind of funny, here's a guy just talking and complaining about his cable service. This 2-meter ham band is probably what I listen to the most. To me, it's the most interesting, and it gives information on what's going on in the community. And it's a little bit like a source of local news from the mouths of just people in the community. By no means did I cover everything that I can possibly receive on my radio scanner here at home, but this is just what I managed to record over the last couple days, so it's not inclusive of everything you can listen to.
If it hangs during the movie, that's it, I'm done. But if it hangs before that, or it doesn't hang after the point, I'm laughing. I'll go right through the movie. Yeah, because when the landlord gets back, I'm telling him that I'm canceling my TV service. I mean, I'm paying he's charging me $10 a month for Cody. That's free. Okay. But I get 5 seconds of show, it reloads for 30 seconds, and then either picks up where it left off, or jumps to make up for the 35 seconds. And if it doesn't jump, then after it's backed up for about 2 or 3 or 4 minutes, it makes a big jump of 2 or 3 or 4 minutes. One way or another, I miss that 30 seconds every time. I get 5 seconds, miss 30 seconds, get 5 seconds, miss 30 seconds. So I'm not paying $10 a month for that.